In this and any other universe, sometimes things are not what they appear to be. Now, this is a bottle episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, and it really holds up. A lot of critics believe this is top 25 all time of the Star Trek universe. It's Season 3, Episode 3, and it's called The Survivors. Now, the third episode of the third season of Star Trek The Next Generation was their 51st episode overall, first broadcast on October 9th, 89. Again, set in the 24th century, the series, of course, follows the adventures of the Starfleet crew of the Federation Starship Enterprise D. Now, in this groundbreaking episode, the Enterprise reaches a Federation colony where all but two of the 11,000 inhabitants have been killed by a mysterious attacker. The two survivors, Kevin and Rishon Uxbridge, an elderly couple played by the stellar John Anderson and the great character actress Anne Haney, refuse assistance and do not want to be rescued. The crew of the Enterprise must determine why only two survivors remain on an otherwise obliterated planet. Now, John Anderson of the big Anderson clan first came to major prominence for a lot of people for his appearances, several appearances on The Twilight Zone, where he played, well, I don't want to give it away, but he played Gabriel in the famous Jack Klugman episode where he basically, a passage for trumpet, he was robbed of an Emmy nomination, but that's okay. Now this one, Picard responds to a distress call from a Federation colony on Delta Rana 4 and discovers the planet to be devastated and obliterated, pretty well devoid of life, save for a patch of land containing a house and vegetation. Transporting to the surface, the away team meets the human occupants of the house, Kevin and Rishon Uxbridge, who claim to have witnessed the attack that destroyed the colony but are unaware that they're the only survivors. The team, finding nothing of interest save for a small music box, insists that the Uxbridge return the Enterprise for safety, but they refuse. Now, various Star Trek characters are played for comedy. This one, Worf and Riker, anyway, because there's a trap set up by the Uxbridge. But aboard the Enterprise, Counselor Troy begins to hear the music from the music box in her mind constantly, each repetition slightly louder than the last, which eventually reduces her to screaming hysterics. Dr. Crusher, in hopes of treating her, is forced to place her in an induced coma. Now, an unknown spacecraft eventually appears and attacks the Enterprise, then flees. The Enterprise gives chase but is unable to overtake the spaceship. Eventually, Picard orders the Enterprise to return to the planet. Picard transports his service personally. Kevin suggests that they were spared because they are pacifists. Upon the way teams return. The spaceship reappears in orbit again, but Picard orders the Enterprise to leave the system first, believing that the crew is being toyed with. Now, returning to the planet again, Picard transports to the surface to plead the Uxbridges to leave with him. After being refused again, Picard tells them that the Enterprise will remain to protect them as long as they live, and returns to the ship. Now, several times during the first half of the episode, Kevin states he does not kill, and that's why he didn't fight with the other people against the attackers on the planet. Just remember that. The alien spaceship appears again and destroys the Uxbridge's home. Picard orders an attack on the craft, and like the previous encounters, destroys them with only one photon. Playing on a suspicion, Picard has the Enterprise moved to higher orbit. After a short time, the Uxbridge's home reappears. Picard orders the Uxbridges beamed up to the Enterprise and confronts Kevin with his suspicions. Kevin and Rishon's house were destroyed in the attack, and Rishon was killed, but Kevin, who's not human, has recreated them both and created the alien warship to dissuade the Enterprise from investigating. Kevin eventually admits the truth. Now, there's a big plot hole here. How can his wife not know she's been recreated? Is he doing that for himself, or can he really have a person come back to life? And of course, the illusionary Rishon disappears after Picard said, "I can touch you, but you're not really real." Kevin removes the torturous music that are placed in Troy's mind to prevent her from telepathically identifying him. Now, when Kevin reveals that he's a Dowd, an immortal energy being with vast powers, omnipotent, and can live forever, he said he fell in love with Rishon and settled with her on Rana 4. They had a great life together. But when the planet was attacked by an aggressive, destructive species called the Whodunit, he refuses to join the fight in accordance with the species' pacifism. I will not kill. Rishon, however, died defending the colony. Stricken with grief, Kevin tells Picard he lashed out with vast powers and wiped out the entire Whodunit species, over 50 billion. Horrified by his crime, he chose self-exile to the planet, creating the replicas of Rishon in the house to spend the rest of eternity. Picard states they are not qualified to judge his crimes, having no laws to fit the magnitude of them. The Enterprise eventually leaves Kevin in his illusion in peace. Picard later opines in his log that being as powerful as Kevin is best left alone. Like, how do you fight a god? Like, he could destroy everybody, but like I said, he's a god with a conscience. But like most people that are omnipotent like that in science fiction things, they make mistakes. Of course, when he made a mistake, he killed all the Whodunit. Now, he said, there's a life of one person worth 50 billion. Well, to certain people, if you're in love with a person or your child, of course, 50 billion people don't count, because the person that counts is the one you love or you want to care for. Now, Cleveland.com's website, which has ranked the greatest episode of Star Trek prior to the appearance of Star Trek Discovery, called this the 24th best of all time. Now, it was eventually released on Laserdisc in the States some 6 years later with Who Watches the Watchers. Now, it was eventually released in Japan on Laserdisc in July 96 in the half-season Log 5 third season part 2 by CIC Video. This included episodes up to A Matter of Perspective on a 12-inch double-sided optical disc. The video was in NTSC format with both English and Japanese audio tracks. Now, it was released on a season 3 DVD set and also on Blu-ray on iDef in 2013. But I think the key to this episode, again, John Anderson, what a tremendous actor he was, as part of the Anderson acting family. And he only passed away. He didn't look it, but he was pretty well around 69 when he did 67 when he did that episode. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, he was, like I said, a tremendous character actor. Now, Les Landau directed the episode, of course, the great Star Trek director, with written by Michael Wagner, and the feature music quite well by Dennis McCarthy, with cinematography by Marvin V. Rush. Now, this was considered the strongest of the early season 3 episodes. It does hold up. Anytime it comes on, CTV Sci-Fi or any other forums, Netflix, whatever it is, this to me is a top 20 episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. What really stands out is because he explains the different characters like Beverly and Worf and Troy and Picard a little bit better. But like I said, there's no canon here. Basically, it is a bottle episode, as much as any episode can be a bottle episode. I think this is like one of those 8.5 out of 10 episodes of Star Trek, because you have great acting and you have a kind of a Twilight Zone twist at the end. I didn't see this coming when it first came. I literally thought he was just a pacifist that could rebuild, but it's kind of, if he's so omnipotent in creating the Whodunit getting killed by one torpedo, that doesn't make any sense either. But I mean, it is science fiction. Maybe that's the way he dealt with stuff. But when someone has a psychic break and kills 50 billion people, how do you control that? It's best to leave them alone, because he loses their mind again. Sort of like the character from ancient times in the old Who Mourns for Adonias. Similar concept. But some data was really underused here, and I don't know why. Maybe Brent Spiner would have saw it through right away, and would be NC. Picard is a film noir buff, and this is a true mystery. Like, it's almost a science fiction film noir mystery, because only Picard and maybe a little bit of Riker saw it coming, because Riker, he's kind of one step behind Picard. That's why they call him number one. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you're doing here, we're Star Trek: The Next Generation reviews. This is, again, one of my favorite episodes. Let me know what you think. And I could talk about John Anderson for years, because the different versions of himself in the Twilight Zone, he did one of the hour-long episodes too. It's just amazing. When I was a kid, like I said, him and Ross Martin, boys, hitting out in the park every time you saw them in a Sterling production. Thanks for listening. Bye.